Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Shadowverse. Today is Monday, August 17th. So, I have actually done some recording in the accountability section. We'll focus on that to start with. I played a game called Disoriented, which I highly don't recommend, as it is literally 30 levels that seemingly it really felt like you could only beat 12 of them. It was a $3 game, I believe, and it wasn't worth even $1 because there's just kind of nothing there. It was a low effort asset flip game that I can't really even find a single thing that would argue against that description. Then I played a point-and-click adventure called The Little Acre, which was also, I believe, a $3 game that only took, well, there's a speedrun achievement for beating the whole game in less than an hour, and it took me about 3 hours to play it casually the first time. A bunch of achievements that made me want to go back and play it three times, or 2.5 times, because I played it the first time on casual, just casually, there's no difficulty settings. And then I played it a second time as a speedrun. Then I had to go back and play it one half of another time, not all the way to the end, to get the final bits of achievements, which some of which are kind of late into the game. A very child-friendly, super simplistic point-and-click adventure. There's like no extra items. There's no red herrings. You're locked into a very small area. You don't have to walk from one screen to another screen very often at all. So it would have been a great kind of like kid-friendly point-and-click adventure game, other than the fact that the story throws out a lot of intriguing ideas and then does absolutely nothing with them and forgets about those ideas. Like, there's a character, Nina, for instance, that you're shown at the very beginning. She plays a very small role and she gets no backstory at all. There was indications that there was an evil corporation element that was going to be touched upon. It wasn't touched upon. There's a whole bunch of stuff that just doesn't happen. And at a certain point in the game, it stops being a point-and-click adventure in totality, and it becomes more of a puzzle game, and then it kind of forgets about the puzzle game element and then goes back to being a point-and-click adventure. So it really does feel like it ran out of budget. Part of the problem there, I think, is that it was a developer putting their own kid in the game, their own daughter in the game. And I bet the daughter lost interest in doing the amount of work to do the voice acting halfway through, and they had to just wrap it up, or her voice started to change, which also could be a factor. And it's just, don't put your kids in games. Like, in general, you shouldn't be pimping out your kids to be the model for your game or the excuse to sell your game. We've seen several of that, particularly proud fathers doing it to their daughters. And, like, it's just not a smart idea at all, because kids aren't going to be able to or want to do the 40 to 100,000 lines of dialogue, which would be 3 hard days minimum of like 12-hour periods of doing voice acting, and they're not going to be good voice actors in the first place. So there is just it's just not a smart move at all to go down that route. So yeah, I played The Little Acre after I played Disoriented, and then I played a game. What did I play? I could swear Yeah, I played a walking simulator called Home is Where One Starts. It has in it 17 interactable, probably Unreal assets that have been pre-bought that you can pick up and look at. It has a 8 memories that you can find, and it has like 2 endings. One ending being that standing in the place you start for 3 minutes and not doing anything, and then the second ending is just like getting the 8 memories and walking around the field that your trailer park house is on. It's a tiny world with basically nothing in it. A lot of asset flipped grass, a lot of trees. The worst case scenario, the problem with it that makes it just a walking simulator, not worth playing really, because it only takes about an hour. It says at the beginning we don't have saves just because it's so short. The thing that I would say kills it is just a story of the narrator, who is the wife of the creator of the game, and it's just like a 2-person team, it seems like. So the narrator remembering a day when she was a child when she missed the bus, and just wandered around her house. From that, there's hard invisible walls that stop you from going too far, and at the end of the game they drop those invisible walls, and there's like no clipping at a certain point, so you start to clip through things, and that's how they just drop the invisible walls, as they just let you run through things. Now, if it had been that Act 1 of the game was the day you remembered that time you missed the bus, that would have been fine, because then I would think you could have Act 2 where you're graduating high school, going into college, graduating college, going on your first date in college. That would be fine. Then you could have Act 3 where you're wandering around before you get married, and then you could have Act 4 where you have a child of your own, and then you have like a cycle story that's happening, something interesting to tell, at least, even if it is just a slice of life story where nothing happens, because that's really what happened in all Home is Where One Starts. Is that you're just getting told a story that you live in this trailer house, your mother died, you don't know how, or divorced your father, you don't know how, although it's questionable why the father would gain custody in that case, because the father's a drunk, and yeah, there's just not a lot that you can grasp from the dialogue, because each memory that you find is only 3 or 4 sentences, and there should have been a ton more writing visually or just audio wise to make it more of a game. I'm really surprised it's so well reviewed, and that's the reason why I bought it as a walking simulator, kind of knowing that it was a walking simulator, and I guess perhaps there are just some worse walking simulators out there, but it by far was nowhere as good as The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, where The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, I would argue, is a very simplistic adventure game and not a walking simulator. Anyways, I was over here. I just wanted to show, as I'm getting the daily quest, I'm going through these and clearing these out. I'm also jumping ahead to this point and clearing out these challenges. So I have like one more battle that I'll probably do when I have just a general victory I need to do. And so there's a good chance that over the course of the next week or two I'll have done enough quests, gotten enough main quests to finish out all of the main story as far as I can go. And it is worth mentioning, we should just jump into a game at the moment, that I have now made an unlimited deck for each of the hero classes, which is great news. Now, these aren't great decks by any means. Havencraft, for instance, is particularly a weird one that is heavily around playing artifacts. And I just don't think I can make limited decks at the moment. I need to open a lot more cards, and then I need to start working on building ranked limited rotation decks. They've also updated this game somewhat in the fact that the Grand Prix, which seems like there's a Grand Prix every almost constantly. Interesting, we ran into network trouble there. Let's go back here. So, yeah, the solo Code Geass crossover thing is done. We got that done. The Grand Prix event is done. So, at the moment, the only thing Code Geass that is left is the Grand Prix, is the leader skins. We have more cards than I thought we would. So, I'm not sure that the leaders ever disappear either. If you were to look like at these other crossovers, they seem to be fairly permanent things that seem to never go down really in price. Like, I imagine that's the license agreement there, is that they never get delisted, but a significant amount of the premium currency goes directly to the license holder. But they have also introduced new cards to Fortune's Hand, or they're about to introduce new cards to Fortune's Hand. That is going to be an expansion to the card set of Fortune's Hand, which is weird. That's something I've never seen in a collectible card game before, that there will just be a secondary tier of cards added. But it does kind of play into the interesting idea, if we look at Fortune's Hands cards in general, of each expansion being relatively short. Like, let's see, if we limit ourselves just down to Fortune's Hands cards, there's 8 pages here. I'm missing 1 legendary here. I'm missing 1 legendary there and 1 legendary there. I imagine these are all legendaries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on page 5. 1, 2, 3 on page 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on page 7. And 2 on page 8. So, we know that there are 8 in a row, 2 rows, so that's 16. You multiply 16 by 8, and you have, let's see, what would that be? 144 cards? 144 cards in an expansion is not really a lot, particularly when you consider that half of these cards are just animated versions of the other cards. And that's why I have like 8 pages. Like, this could have easily been 6 pages if I got rid of all of the animated cards. I don't know if you can get rid of animated cards. Yeah, you could liquefy them, but I don't know why you'd specifically want to do that. Let's try this again. So yeah, I can't really recommend. I definitely don't recommend Disoriented as a game. Not worth playing. It also even made me motion sick, and I don't suffer from motion sickness. But it would drive people with vertigo or motion sickness crazy. Man, I keep seeing new leaders. Like, there's clearly leader skins that were temporary skins or only available in certain areas or certain regions. Let's see. So heavy, this is a heavy on the amulet deck. But yeah, I don't recommend Disoriented at all. I could recommend the Little Acre if you know going in that it's going to be about an hour point-click adventure that's not going to be very well written or very well resolved. It's a very short experience that doesn't do enough character building and backstory to make you interested in what's going on, even though the story is somewhat compelling. And I can't really even recommend Home is Where One Starts because it's, once again, just too short of an experience.
Punishment.
So, yeah, I've played 3 games. It's not a smart move, frankly, as someone who has fallen just further and further behind as far as actually scheduling, and has completely dropped the ball as far as scheduling the reruns of the Magic the Gathering streams. It's not a smart move to play a bunch of short games. So I need to move on to playing something a little bit less of a short game, something longer. That being said, I've kind of started a new theme, so I'm gonna play a game that I've been meaning to play for quite a while next, where you play as this blind girl wandering around, and I think the name of that game is called Blind Eyes or something along that line. So yeah, I'm gonna play that, although after that point I do think I might decide to finally frustrate myself and try to play Cuphead. I bought that like a little earlier than I probably should because I actually want to play it, and then when I actually try to play it, I almost certainly am going to get very, very frustrated with it, and I very well may rage quit on Cuphead.
We won't give him an inch.
So yeah, we don't. We're kind of at the point now, as far as video game news, where nothing is going to be said, particularly on the weekends or generally even during the week. We're going to get very little bits of news. There is one story I'm bearing the lead on, certainly, but we'll get to it in a second. And I think we should do a take 6, open 6 game here in a second. This.
I soar the skies in the name of justice.
And then this.
Punishment.
And then evolve here.
Show your might.
You would like in your repent.
And do that. And that. Yeah, it's frankly amazing that this works at all, this deck. But it was kind of was the only thing I could do. My deck building procedure for Shadowverse might just be wrong, because I'm looking at some rather big cards that you're almost never going to get to play, and starting from concepts that would synergize with those big game enders, those bombs, when that's what they call them in Magic, is bombs. When honestly I probably should be focusing on something else. See, this would destroy every countdown immediately after you play it, and that just gives you that ability for the rest of the game, which is cool. So let's go through what we've got. Dragon Ball Fighter Z DLC character Master Roshi has been announced. Master Roshi, not a character known for his fighting ability, really, in the later parts of the Dragon Ball Z universe. Many of the characters that were originally in the Dragon Ball anime kind of got power leveled out of being anything that could even hold their own against the likes of like Frieza or Boo or even Vegeta. Master Roshi is known as the creepy old man, as it were, of the Dragon Ball Z universe, where they probably tried to play that down, at least in the Western versions. Alright, now if I crystallize this, it will immediately be just destroyed, causing it to activate. And I could have done this and it would have immediately banished a character too. The Dragon Ball Z, I don't think it was the Dragon Ball Z, but the Dragon Ball manga set complete collection was on a slickdeals.net sale, and yeah, that was an interesting thought, certainly. Of course, you do have to realize that, like, the first chapter of Dragon Ball, poor kid Goku, like, removes the underwear of Bulma in childlike investigation of uncertain what girls are. He doesn't even know what girls are as a 6-year-old. So there's like a dirty joke in the very first volume of Dragon Ball, and there's plenty of them in the manga that get played down a little bit in the Dragon Ball anime, and it really becomes all about fighting by the time you're at Dragon Ball Z, at least in the Western versions, again.
I cannot pray to the gods for this.
Interesting. I'm gonna lose here.
Death pounce! Me whiskers!
Yeah. This definitely is a deck that still needs some work on it. I've also been pricing out the possibility of building a new computer, and I want to talk about that for just a brief second. I've been out of the game as far as looking at where Intel CPUs were at. I had kind of been blissfully unaware that in the 9th generation of Intel CPUs, the only way you could get 2 threads per core, was to have an i9 processor, which is a very, very expensive minimum $400 CPU. Whereas even an i7, which used to be the top tier, was limited to, like, you could get an 8 core with 16 threads. And honestly, that is not something I'm willing to live with. I have a 6 core, 32 thread CPU right now that was an Intel processor from several generations back. Probably going 6 to 8 years back at this point. But heavily now there is that thought that maybe I should go to AMD. The PlayStation 4 and the Xbox Series X are both AMD processors. So there's something to that idea. Excuse me, I had to sneeze there. I wish you could tell if you own these cards before or not. Well, I think these two are legendary, and I think this is not legendary. So I'm probably between Portalcraft and Dragoncraft, and I imagine Portalcraft needs the help more than anything. Let's see. This summons Yoan's Fury, which is a mystic artifact or an ancient artifact. Baphomet's Crackdown, which brings in one of the Furies. Interesting. Well, I think that makes this the right one. So these are guaranteed phantom cards. You only get these. You'll only get cards from your class plus selected neutral cards. And Dreadnought Gorilla and Rebel Against Fate are just phantom cards, so you're still in the point where you don't get to keep the two cards at the front there that they're showing you. So that's kind of some great ABS, because it does kind of make it seem like you're guaranteed at least 2 legendaries when you aren't. Let's see, that's fairly bad deck, unless we're just going to play a lot of robotic engineers, which I'm not sure why I would want to do that. Yeah, and a lot of these cards I already have, and are neutral cards anyways. But I will get, I guess, more cards from older expansions that are cards I don't have. Or at least that's the hope. But then you also have the problem of these cards not being counted towards the tradables count. This is probably new. Put a random artifact card from your deck into your hand. If resonance is activated, put 2 artifacts instead. And here's the Phantom deck. Okay. And so this is the one they guaranteed us we were going to get before. And this is the one they guaranteed we were going to get before. And if we could get enough victories, I think ideally you would probably want something like this. Or who knows which one of these. This is probably what you want. Yeah, almost certainly. The Zelda of the World is one of the top tier tarot cards. So, yeah. So almost certainly in these deck builds, what you would want is to cover the phantom cards and make sure that they are the ones being added new. Like, so we got an animated version of this card for Fortune's Hand, and probably just a bunch of extra cards that will be liquefied otherwise. We have a new animated version for Worlds Uprooted, but then the rest of these are either a second or third copies, or again going to be liquefied. For Ultimate Coliseum, we got a new version of this, which I guess we just didn't have it, whereas these might again be second or third copies. And then for Verdant Conflict, we got a new one of these, and once again potentially second and third copies. And then we don't know which of these we get to keep, if any. So that puts us with 48 cards to start with our deck. Is there any amount of cards in here that are more than 3? Yes. So there's slight different experiences. Is there anything down here that isn't just in the deck to start with? No. If we opened 6 packs, how did we end up with 48 cards? That's an interesting question. 3 damage to your enemy, put a paradigm shift in your hand. Storm, if Resonance is activated. Accelerate. Destroy an enemy follower, then deal damage to your enemy follower equal to that. For 5, we don't really even have a high level of cards. So, really will just come down to what do we need to get rid of. I think we could probably get rid of puppets. Remaining play points for 3. Summoning goblins. It's not terrible. Just 2, 3, 4. We just get rid of puppets as a concept. That probably leaves us fine with the rest of these cards. Probably can get rid of that because we almost certainly won't use it. Well, I could get rid of that instead. There's always this problem where when you click on this, it should be like over here, and they just don't figure that out. So you have to click on something here, then unclick on this to be able to get rid of the screen, because there's like no right click or anything, or left click or middle click to get rid of it. Alright, so I got rid of a couple things extra, so I'll throw that back in, and well, I guess throw that back in, and then that's going to be our deck. And for pick 6, I think that is pretty much just the level of success you're going to have always. Since we kind of know that the next expansion is just the mid-tier expansion to Fortune's Hand, there's plenty of time to potentially continue working on opening, getting the older cards before rotation changes, and doing pick 6 as a way of doing that.
Perish in my flame.
Although I think there is also an argument at some point we should just open different packs. For video game news, the Amazon UK has listed The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword for Switch. This would be a re-released Wii title. That's believable. That is my other thought, certainly, is if it turns out that I can't actually afford to build a computer, well, I'm just going to be screwed at that point, but I am thinking I may very well compromise and go to like a Ryzen 3rd gen, perhaps even a year behind, generation behind, for an AMD processor and motherboard, because there is kind of this higher cost motherboards that you have to buy for the 10th gen Intel CPUs, and the main factor that the 10th gen offers you is PCI Express, a new PCI Express version, which I think is 4.0, which, since I already have an RTX 2080 and I probably am not going to end up buying a new video card that would use that, I don't really need that. There is a increasing number also of motherboards that don't have a lot of just expansion slots in general, that they really are getting down to the point where if you're lucky you get 3 1X for PCI Expresses, and then maybe one 16X and maybe one 8X plugs, which for somebody who wants to potentially use their their motherboard later on as a server to be able to access a bunch of hard drives, it becomes practically impossible at a certain point to add more plugs to add more SATA controllers, and even if there's like 6 plugs on that setup, you may not have enough slots there for like a 20 or 24 RAID array server, that like it may very well get to the point where it's impossible to get 24 SATA connectors going. I could have attacked, I didn't realize that had rush. So yeah, that's another consideration, is that I don't need a PCI Express for single slot. There are some cost saving measures, certainly, since I've already spent $500 on a new video card. And I've already bought an SSD M2 slot, which I can just move over. That really just means I need to buy a big hard drive to install the games to, and the backups to, at least for the moment.
Shutting down.
So, yeah, there definitely are some thoughts that need to be considered.
Begin. I've got you all so obvious.
Don't be so cold.
Interesting. Do I want to heal this? I mean, I can heal it. Might as well. What's it matter?
My resolve spurs me forward.
I don't even know if it's YouTube family friendly to name the name of this game. There's a game on Steam here that's come out. It's C***** head, if you can figure that out. That's literally the name. It seems like you literally are playing as a phallus or a penis, in case you don't know what phallus means. And it seems like it is kind of a platforming shooter type game. It's early access. It's selling for $5.10. Has 5 achievements. Since I can't even say the name out loud for fear, I guess I at that point need to not put it on the follow list. Like,
Bare knuckles. Hilarious. This way.
so yeah, that's not gonna make it to the follow list.
I always enter with a win.
Next, we have a game on Steam here called Bor, B-O-R, which looks like it's like a cell phone platforming game. It doesn't look terrible, but it does seem to have probably the exact same low response time that most cell phone games have to have, and low graphics that you would expect from somebody trying to make a Mario Brothers clone. It's $5.94, which is too expensive, and it's English and Italian. It has 48 levels plus 13 secret levels, which there probably was only like 24 levels in Super Mario Brothers 3. Bane Ward, I guess that's what we want. And then in the turn. Could have evolved them, I guess. Should have evolved them.
I'm waiting to get up close and personal, darling.
I think we did have another game that was kind of abruptly pulled from Steam. This time it wasn't a Manga Gamer game, so there seemed to be less whining and direct like talk about being pulled. Let's see. All enemy followers.
Sleep.
That wasn't very cute.
Alright, in the turn. But yeah, if Valve is slowly, habitually getting rid of adult games, or at least quality adult games on Steam, they're gonna take 5 years to accomplish it. In the same way that, like, a tech site called Tech Dirt apparently has gotten on the bad side of somebody at YouTube and Google in general, and they're like blocking and complaining about all of Tech Dirt's post on their even own website, which is kind of weird. So it's kind of a case of them seeming to not like the comment sections of some people's websites. Apparently that is a thing that has been happening where people have been leaving comments that Google and AdSense have determined to not be advertiser friendly, and thus all of a sudden they're getting yelled at, which, yeah, I think AdSense is probably in as terrible a shape as YouTube is in.
I will support the vanguard. Carry on.
Let's see.
It takes a thief to catch a thief.
Have fun.
荒事は専門外なんだ。
Okay. 10th turn. Alright, so we've got to destroy this one and then hope it doesn't do that, but it did do that, so whatever.
No. If I fall.
Go ahead and take out that guy.
Oh crap, they spotted me.
You'll find gizmos like this every millennium.
What does this guy do? 4 damage to all enemies. Interesting. So this is just gonna do 4 damage at the end of the turn.
Impossible.
Nope, it did 4 damage to everybody. Well, I think I've just lost. I wonder if the people you're playing against have the same cars. See, next we have a game on Steam I'm about to lose called Aorlian Tactics, which they say is a turn-based strategy. It looks to me like it's an asset flip, low effort turn-based strategy if that's the case. It's $7.19, 1 achievement, probably an achievement game, English only. Okay. What can we do? Bane, Ward, Rush, Drain, Destroy, 2 damage to the enemy leader, Storm. I think you have to do this. And I think you have to probably not destroy that one, that was a mistake. But yeah, that was like the only way I could even survive 1 turn more, and then he's just going to attack me completely. I don't think all of my moves there were terrible. I just think a lot of my cards there were pretty bad. And I think that very well may happen. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam here called The Chosen Warrior, which is already mixed. And yeah, it does look like it is an ugly, like,
I bring unto you
side-scrolling beat 'em up
The world called,
game.
and I answered.
It it doesn't look impressive at all. It's $6.99, no discount, English and Spanish. So, yeah. No need to put that on the wish list. Gamatsu has an article here. Gmod Archives Title 14 has been announced. It's called Mystia. It's due out September 3rd in Japan. It's a Switch game. It doesn't seem like any other bits of information has been released. I'm not even sure what kind of game it is going to be, but it's selling for $5, so it's probably not much of a game. So I need to play this, I think, if I'm gonna do anything, which is questionable whether you need to do anything on the first turn. Paradigm shift.
You don't find gizmos like this every millennium.
Next, we have a game on Steam here called Unknown Region, which looks like it's a just kind of asset flip, not visually polished enough zombie shooter game. Yeah, there's nothing here to impress it. Early access for $19.99, English allegedly full audio. The game I played, Disoriented, that game also did not have support for any of the any like controller input, so I was having to use mouse and keyboard on top of it being a bad game, a low effort kind of asset flip game. In something that, at least on the face of it, I can agree with Google. They have put out in a blog, there's a new Australian regulations that apparently will have negative consequences for the YouTube community. The news media bargaining code. YouTube may be obligated to give large news publishers confidential information about their systems that could use to appear higher in YouTube rankings, disadvantaging other creators. This would mean you could also receive fewer views and earn less. It will create an uneven playing field when it comes to who makes money on YouTube. Under the law, big news business can seek access to data about viewers' use of products. YouTube believes users' data protection is paramount. So yeah, YouTube doesn't like it. Now, does that mean I should agree with YouTube, or that the way YouTube is spinning this is accurate? No. That being said, this is kind of Australia's MO also of being very draconian and conservative. So I do have a small tendency to believe what they're saying. Like, we definitely have seen that. Almost certainly it seems like on the face of it what Australia's trying to do is prevent fake news type things on YouTube. Which, yeah, I don't know what the state of free speech as a concept is in Australia, whether it's in their constitution, whether it's respected in the constitution. At the current moment, there's a lot of action that seems to be taken specifically to dismantle the United States Postal Service, and that's written as Article 1 of the in the Constitution, like at the very beginning, before even any of the amendments. So you can take the argument that if you're sworn to uphold the Constitution as a politician and you're not upholding the post office, you're not doing your duty. Some might even use the treason word at that point, if you want to get really hyperbolic about it.
Sleep.
Twice the training.
At the end of your turn, if you have at least one, deal 1 damage to random. If you have at least 3 play points, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. Okay. I will take that. So, yeah. That looks like that is something that they're actually concerned about. It frankly would not upset me to potentially have more posts along that line, as far as like Google actually looking like they're trying to maintain and improve the laws around that affect Google. But then on the other hand, they are kind of constantly ruining the world as it is, and making YouTube worse through their own actions, so it becomes very hard to side with YouTube even when they are doing something good, because they've just done so much to potentially favor themselves in the long run. And I wouldn't also be surprised if somebody came back and explained to me that actually this Australians law would just stop the likes of CNN and Fox News and ABC, CBS News, the big American company news. It would put Australian news companies on the same playfield as those American companies, and I wouldn't be surprised if there is special access being given to some of the news sites, some of the American companies' news sites, but which, in all fairness, they have not gotten any traction at all, even if they are being given special privileges, which they almost certainly are, by the looks of it. The late night shows are the only things that even slightly look like they've been successful. So, oops, I did not run the numbers right. Did not run the math right on that. This guy is playing a strategy where some of these artifacts are going to be synergized with a card that will do like 6 damage to me if he makes it even to that point.
Feel that? It's the winds of fortune.
Gametsu has an article here. The survivor horror game Clay, CLEA, for Switch launches October 30th. And that's missing the Halloween date. And I guess Halloween in general, creepy face here, will be the point. This came out on Steam, so we could go look at the Steam page in general to see how well it was received. I guess there is a question there to be asked. What can we do? Can we do anything to save this? I mean, we can destroy this to do that. We can do this. Do that.
Are you full and happy?
We can play that. Yeah, if we see a lot of games missing Halloween that look like games that should have been out 2 weeks before Halloween, then we know more than likely any games that were supposed to come out around Black Friday have a high chance of missing the Black Friday release date, and any game that was gonna come out around the Christmas holiday, which there isn't a ton of AAA games that come out during the Christmas holiday, but there might be one or two. They probably are going to be 2 weeks late too. And we've already seen tons of people come out and admit that they were going to delay their games. So we're just going to be seeing these stragglers that just didn't bother to admit it and still rush their games out as fast as they could and miss the date. As for this game Clay, it's rated very positively. It does look very creepy. It seems to be kind of like an adventure game by the looks of it. It feels like there might even be some kind of RPG element to it by the looks of it. See, it seems like you get chased by creepy characters and then I don't even know what happens. Seems like you're just kind of walking around creepy world. There's a Clay and an anniversary art book. Alright, well, the standard requirement here would be to see if this is reviewed well, and it is, so I'm going to put it on the follow list. $7.99. Seems like it might be a little expensive. Definitely wouldn't be able to play it this year. Okay. When this one attacks, it's going to do 4 to me, so I need to figure out some way to save myself. And how can we do that?
Extermination for ye trespassers. Verifying access.
Yeah, I think I just lost anyways. Like, I should have attacked. But if I had attacked, I would have lost. So, you on occasion get this where they don't just attack directly. But usually I've noticed players do want to attack directly. Even if there is a tempting character to kill. But unlike Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering, I feel like the players of Shadowverse are just a little smarter than that.
Embraced by the earth.
Or maybe this guy's just giving me a chance because he's 20-0. Or maybe they just wanted to see what that card did. You do run into this scenario where you can just always blame the cards. Like, we could try and edit the deck a little bit, but I don't think it's going to change much. Next we have a game on Steam called The Evil in the Forest, which looks like it is probably just a horror asset flip run around game. Early access, $5.09, English, French, Spain, Spanish, and Russian. Third-person horror adventure game. I'm going to give it a follow. we may have hit a point here where I've started to lower my standards for the follow list, and perhaps I need to do a follow list cleanup to raise my standards again. But we really are running out of things. Here's yet another leader character I don't recognize.
My barrier is impenetrable.
Okay. So the big story that I was bearing the lead on, Apple is apparently going to revoke Epic's dev tools, including those used for the Unreal Engine. Now, in the end, there might be wording in which Epic has violated that contract, which I assume would be a different contract than the contract they signed to list Fortnite on the Apple Store, or there's enough wiggle room in the contract that that Apple can just revoke and cancel the contract penalty free. Anyways, that card is useless. What card was that? Artifact call. Put random artifact card from your deck into your hand. So I have no random artifact cards. So that card is just useless. Now, I am not sure whether this means that any game that ever used the Unreal Engine is now going to potentially not work or not be allowed on the iOS store. That seems rather extreme if that's the case. But that might very well be what this means. Or if this just means that new games trying to use the Unreal Engine can't get listed, or doesn't mean people with the Unreal Engine in some other way are going to lose some kind of access. Right. That let's see.
None can pierce my
Here the article says, it's not that Apple is outright removing every game that uses the Unreal Engine from iOS, but for many Unreal Engine favoring mobile devs, the result may be as well the same. Without access to Apple's development tools, which cover development for iOS as well as macOS, Epic is unable to keep Unreal Engine compatible with new iOS versions, a harm that trickles down rather quickly to developers using the engine. Millions of developers rely on the Unreal Engine to develop software, and hundreds of millions use that software, argues Epic. Does that inherently mean that Apple has to let people do that, though, in their own development software? And Apple certainly is in a unique position where their retaliation to the provocations of Epic can potentially make them look like they are the monopoly that they actually are, or that they're being accused of being. And I wouldn't be surprised one bit if it was Epic once again that provoked and violated some contract that has Apple revoking the Unreal Engine. Now, I would almost argue that macOS and Unreal makes a lot more sense than iOS and Unreal games. Like, I would say there's probably a significantly higher number of Unity engine games for cell phones and macOS in general. Artifacts. Paradigm shifts. And then this guy can't attack.
Singing until there's world peace.
And then
Sleep.
evolve.
Corny. There's as my guitar gently beats.
And then what else do we want to do? Well, that was a mistake. This is a quote here. Developers that intend to sell their apps for use on iOS or macOS will have to forego the Unreal Engine in favor of other engines, reads the motion. Instead, they already had this all written up by lawyers.
Pray to the gods for this.
So, yeah. Once again, the fact that
I can't
that
sing
Epic
another
had
note.
the lawsuit, the addendum to the lawsuit now of them getting banned, the Unreal Engine being banned from their programming elements, ready to go, does just once again play into the thought that these were intentional provocations. Well, that was weird. I was not expecting that to happen.
Got some decent loot.
Accept harmony.
So yeah, the whole Epic and Apple fight, though, it really does just come down to nobody should be siding with anybody, and we should just both be on the sidelines going, boy, I hope this is a good boxing match. I hope they beat each other into a pulp. Best case scenario is Apple goes bankrupt and runs and is no more, and Epic goes bankrupt and is no more, and then you could have the likes of better companies that wouldn't do these childish, ridiculous actions running the infrastructure. I mean, that's really, I think, the best case scenario. Okay, hit this, and hit this. I'm gonna protect myself a little bit. Moving on, OpenCritic has an article. A
Pray to the
game
gods
is
for
being made based on Orwell's Animal Farm,
Will listen.
which is, I don't think, a story that I've ever actually bothered to read, but it's like a political satire game, and since this is a mobile game, I don't think that there's a high chance that it's going to be great. It's also coming to Steam, so I guess there is that possibility that you could have a very interesting experience there.
It'll be alright. Probably.
Yeah, like, I don't know how I could particularly criticize it, though, as someone who hasn't read Animal Farm and has no intention on reading Animal Farm just to play a mobile game or a Steam game. Honestly, I feel like a lot of those stories are handpicked by the teachers, not to teach kids like the good stories that were written, but to teach kids that authority is good and order is good and the government is good, and then they're just like pro-government propaganda pieces. Like, yeah, I think that's fairly obvious, and some of the stories are straight up like that. Like Lord of the Flies, for instance, was literally, I think, written by a teacher to show how awful students and kids are and how they wouldn't be able to survive. It was a direct response to Swiss Family Robinson. Man, I almost won there, and he still, with just like a couple of cards, had an end game ready to go. Throw me a bone, let me win by a quick disconnect at least. Square Enix is looking for playtesters apparently. If you're in, I believe, Montreal. No, they're doing it remotely, so even if you don't live in San Francisco Bay Area, which is apparently where this office, Crystal Dynamics, is. So, interesting thought. That being said, I'm not sure you get paid anything. Even if you get paid minimum wage, I'm still not sure it would be worth it. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the blind spotting producers, Snoot Entertainment, are developing a Firewatch movie. Once again, I just don't think Firewatch deserves any more talk about it at all. As a game that's blacklisted from me ever playing it, because they threatened at the very least to abuse the DMCA lawsuit, I don't see a reason to really give them the time of day other than to say, yes, this is news. No, nobody should be super hyped about it or anything else, because the movie is still far from being done, and frankly the state of the current movie making industry is potentially completely out of business before we see another year or two of movies. I can't play this because it won't do anything. TechRaptor has the same article. Epic Game lawsuit escalates as developer accounts are terminated. So, yeah. Yeah. There is potentially a small backfire, I would say, to the idea of blocking the Unreal Engine for development for Apple games and iOS apps in general. But it probably is a fairly small backfire, because if it does really ruin the experience of gaming on cell phones, the experience on gaming on cell phones was already pretty bad. So, that's not going to really hurt Apple. I imagine Apple has the numbers, and they can tell you directly that a large majority of the iPhone users don't install more than 3 or 4 outside of Apple apps anyways, and because of that, I wouldn't be surprised if that means very few people are gaming on their iPhones significantly anyways. TechRaptor has a story here. Xbox Series X architecture detailed in deep dive with ray tracing, 4K, and more. And see, as I'm thinking about building a new computer, I'm not really looking for 4K ray tracing or anything like that. I'm simply trying to get just better performance and consistent performance with the
Will not surrender.
let's see. Yeah, I'm trying to get just better and more consistent performance with 1080p 60 frames per second games, particularly older games. I want to be capable of playing newer games, but it certainly isn't my habit to just buy the AAA games, the biggest, newest AAA games. And even when you are buying the biggest and newest AAA games, often nothing you can do will fix the fact that the game is just not polished, and thus there's no saving it. Anyways, because that is where it often boils down to. The Horizon Zero Dawn, I believe, was the name of the game that just recently came out. Like, that game's not gonna run better for anybody just because you have a faster CPU or a faster graphics card. What's gonna make it better is when the patch comes out. Next we have a game on Steam called Labyrinths of the World, Hearts of the Plants Collector's Edition, another hidden object game from Big Fish Games, which it's been a while since we've seen them list one. They're listing this at $12.59, which still is very much in their line of overpriced hidden object games. I guess I'll do this. And then I guess I'll do this. Guess we did have more tabs than I thought. Next we have a game on Steam called Bound Forest, which looks like it might be an adventure game of some interest. There's a lot of gray happening, a lot of darkness, which makes it dangerously close to a dark screenshot syndrome game. It's tagged as an RPG, but from the video that I'm seeing, it seems almost like a more simplified version of the idea that Death Stranding had, where you're just walking and having to struggle to get from point A to point B. I'm not sure that concept as a game ever would work. This is a free-to-play game, English full audio. At least the alpha is free-to-play. So hopefully I would get notice. It seems like you fight trolls at some point. Okay. Do I want to do that? Or do I want to do this? Or do I want to do this? Excuse me. Must be kicking up some dust somewhere. Next we have a game on Steam called Caravan Trade Tycoon, which just looks visually pretty poorly designed. So I don't see a reason why you would want to play this type of game in a video game format. If this was a board game or based off a board game, then that would make a lot of sense. It's early access for $7.19. 8 achievements. Yeah. Nothing there. Quality wise. Okay. So I could play a 2 at the moment.
Bare knuckles. Hilarious. This way.
Nice.
Into the shadow. The earth rains from above.
Baldur's Gate 3 is coming out in 17 hours, if that matters to anybody. Okay. Destroy an enemy follower. If they evolve, do 2 damage to them. What do we want to do?
Bring the blaze to the max!
Go ahead and just play that. Then end the turn. If I could get him down to the point where I could do 6 damage and that would really matter, that would be great, but at this rate it doesn't seem like that's happening. Next we have a game on Steam here called Arabelle, which is tagged as a beat 'em up game. Very black and white in its art style. Kinda looks like Waco Mundo from Bleach, which was like the underworld and all of the, like, what were they called? Heartless or something? They're called something. We're all in white, which white is the symbol for death in Asian cultures, or many Asian cultures. This kind of looks like it's just an infinite runner or a tech demo, but there might be something here. It's $2.99. It's English only, so it doesn't have any of the telltale indicators of being like a low effort Chinese game. So I'm going to put this on the follow list and we'll see what Arabelle is all about. Of course, right now, all I'm about is losing, which, man, this certainly sucks as far as collectible card games, but I cannot think of any other, like, slow enough paced game that I could play that would make sense. I could probably find a point-and-click adventure, like one point-and-click adventure that would be slow enough, but then there's no way I could play that same point-and-click adventure every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for a long period of time. I could probably find some poker game, but I'm not sure I would be interested enough to play a poker game. Or a solitaire game, something like that. And honestly, if I had like 2 or 3 people setting up here, I could probably toss 2 or 3 people for different stories, and that's what you see in every standard podcast or in just standard TV in general, is that you have a presenter and they tell one story and then they toss to the second person who is ready to go with the next story without having to take a break. Well, moving on, TechRaptor has an article, Sports Story, the sequel to Golf Story, has been delayed. I don't think it was ever announced, or if it was announced, it's been a long time ago, so yeah, okay. I vaguely recall Golf Story being well received when it came out. TechRaptor has an opinion piece here. War's piece, the US Army Twitch stream is an ethical problem. I personally would agree, but that is, again, just going to be an opinion piece. As any ethical question is going to be an opinion piece. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article here. EU Din Chronicle 100 Heroes Kickstarter campaign surpasses 3 million. The 109th character announced. I have no idea what this game is, but apparently it's a spiritual successor to Sokyuden, which must have been a very popular RPG game. 109th character announced. Does make it seem like they're probably listing every NPC possible. Let's see.
Will not surrender.
Kill that. Do I want to evolve this? Probably not. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Gangster Empire Vendetta, which looks like it's a management game of no real interest. It looks like it's almost all text-based. $5.94, English only. Nothing impressive there. I can see the beginning of the end, by the way. Let's go ahead and put this on the field. What does this do? Can attack twice. Interesting. So if I can buff up the attack on this character, that would be great. This is the one that will do 2 damage if something evolves, which that might not matter. Give an allied follower +1 if there's a nature card. Otherwise, we can do this, and then this.
Verifying access.
We can play this, but it won't do anything. And I think he probably could, if he's paying attention, tell that that card didn't do anything, because it wouldn't have changed the number of cards in my hand any.
Now the fight begins.
Shutting down.
Okay, what do we want to do now? I want to be able to play this and keep it on the field enough. Yeah, I want to keep it on the field long enough that then I can attack with this. Twice with it getting +2/+2. Of course, I could have won the game if I had waited until Resonance was activated and played this. So that was a fairly stupid move on my part. Like, he's got to win this turn, pretty much.
You're through.
Five damage to an enemy follower. Can't hit him. Alright, that sucks. Which means I can't hit this guy either.
Bring the flames to the max. I didn't want to lose.
Yeah, I'm still not sure I'm gonna win here. Gamatsu has an article here. Warner Brothers Games Montreal has launched this redacted teaser website and Twitter account. All signs are pointing it to being a new Batman Gotham Knight game being teased. Like, Batman Gotham Knights. Like, so these announcements are still happening, even though there are rumors that all of WB is going to potentially be out of a job at any point here.
Tastes best when you're hungry.
Alright, hit that. Seriously? What does this do? This is bull. This is bull.
Eating makes me hungry. My tummy's rumbling.
So I totally just lost once again. Wow. Yeah, I don't know how you don't just call that a sucky experience. I'm still spending way too much time playing Shadowverse too, even though I wasn't capable of playing some other games over the weekend, mostly on Sunday evening. That I don't know how you don't just call that a bad experience in general. And I am getting up in the ranked slowly but surely, mostly focusing on playing Forestcraft as a deck, which I've pretty much figured that it seems like you do get score rewards just for falling backwards 100 points, then gaining 100 points, then falling back another 100 points, then gaining 100 points. So it seems like your monthly score reward can be achieved even if you are just a terrible player, as long as you can get an occasional victory and an occasional win streak. Yet another leader I don't recognize. There's just so many of them. I bet I'm going in circles mentally and just forgetting them and then bringing them back into my mind and then forgetting them again. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. Microids is going to co-publish Oddworld Soulstorm Physical Edition. Still not sure Oddworld's going to succeed, but I think for the fans of Oddworld, I hope it does. TechRepto has a review here for a game called Mortal Shell, which I think was like a Dark Souls-like attempt of a clone, with maybe some more medieval things. I vaguely think people liked it, but I could be wrong. Let's see what they said. Nope, they didn't like it. At least TechRaptor didn't. 6.0, Mortal Shell boasts responsive combat and gorgeous visuals, but it lets down by rote level design, big word there, poor storytelling, and generally unfinished feel. Pros are reactive weighted combat, gorgeous visuals, and innovative class systems. Cons are rote boring level design, poor narrative structure, and glitchiness. Who wrote this to use the word rote? Joseph Allen. I suppose it's worth mentioning that Kind of Funny Games is invited and actually gotten one of the Microsoft Xbox team major players to go on their show, and they seem like they have gotten a few people on their show from the Microsoft team, which is probably the Microsoft team in part courting them since they were such PlayStation fanboys in the previous generation. But it does kind of seem like the same old elites are getting special access once again as far as Kind of Funny Games, which I don't feel like a ton of people even watch Kind of Funny Games YouTube videos. Well, this is a little premature to do this, but whatever. We'll do it. They're also, like, Gary Whitta started his own little podcast thing through Animal Crossing, of all ways to have a podcast, and he also has managed to get some of the Microsoft big players. And I would almost certainly argue that Gary Whitta, I believe, wrote for PC Gamer a long time ago, and he wrote the Book of Eli movie, which it kind of doesn't matter whether you think that is a good movie or not as far as criticism around him being a player in the video game world. He wrote something for the Star Wars things. I think he wrote maybe not Solo, but the movie that came out that wasn't a numbered Star Wars movie before Solo, the one where it was the rebels of no important name getting the Death Star plans to Princess Leia before the events of Episode 4. And that movie wasn't terrible, but in retrospect, historically, it's easy to forget it even exists. Speaking of Star Wars, there apparently is going to be a LEGO Star Wars holiday special of some sort. I don't know if this inherently means that it's going to be anything like the original holiday special. I wouldn't be surprised if it actually is something completely different, designed so when people search the Star Wars holiday special, they get this LEGO element, this LEGO movie instead. In the same way that Disney Frozen a long time ago used to bring up the fake news story that Disney had Walt Disney had his head frozen, which is by all accounts not true. So there is a thought, certainly, that the reason why they named the movie Frozen was to do search engine optimization and change things. And I bet that's exactly what they're doing with the Lego Star Wars holiday special. But it's even weird that that would happen. And it probably is in part because George Lucas is not in charge that would happen. In fact, it might very well be being greenlit as a way of just poking and jabbing at George Lucas. Moving on, Gematsu has the same article. Sports story is delayed, and here you see a screenshot that says, "Please understand, please understand." Apparently, this was what sports story was going to look like. It's no longer due out in mid-2020, which is, in all fairness, we are pretty much past mid-2020. So I just won 50 ranked battles. We wouldn't want to break the streak, so we won, so we'll keep winning, hopefully. Next we have a game on Steam called 100 Vacas, which I feel like might be Spanish for cows. And it looks like it's a low resolution twin stick shooter game. It doesn't really look like much as far as the game. It's selling for $3.39 and it's English only. I'll put this on the fall list just in case it somehow becomes really popular, but I don't know if that's the case. Vacas might also be 100 bullets. Vacas might also mean like bad guys. I don't know what vaca means or what language that is. Gematsu has an article here. Ghost of Tsushima Legends Online co-op multiplayer mode update is coming this fall, which okay. So Sucker Punch has announced Ghost of Tsushima Legends, a new online cooperative multiplayer mode coming to Ghost of Tsushima. This is another great example of them not using quotation marks when they should. This is the name of the game. Online is not.
Don't hurt me.
Why people don't know how to use quotation marks, I don't know. Tech Raptor has an article. The next Nintendo Indie World Showcase is coming tomorrow. These showcases come quick and frequently enough that they kind of don't mean much, and it'll probably just be 2 or 3 games, like 2 or 3 new indie games coming to the eShop that will have more hype than they probably deserve and sell probably exactly as much as they do deserve. Next we have a game on Steam called Tahul, which they're saying is a fantasy magic game. It looks interesting visually. I'm not sure what the gameplay mechanic actually is though. Let's see. A VR game with a glove that's pointing in a direction. And with the lasers you can shoot balls of energy. And that seems to be all you can really do. Well, it's free, so I guess the price is right. And English only, full audio. Even if this was a student project, it seems like it was a not student project, but an event, like a game jam type event that got made.
Stay away.
I think particularly in the case of video games, having like 48-hour game jams probably aren't really worth it. And as we get away from the idea of having big conventions where people get together, I feel like we will more and more start to see
Stay away.
challenges and events that are more built around the idea of you have a month from this announcement to make a game and announce it, and the game has to be based on these criteria. And a month-long game jam, I think, is much more reasonable than 48 hours. There is kind of a level of gatekeeping where only those who are really, really experienced with working under the crunch mentality can make a game for a game jam, whereas new people trying to learn game development aren't going to really be benefited by that kind of game jam, or more indie people that aren't used to working under high pressure concepts are not going to be benefited that way either.
Bad people are evil. Stay away.
We already talked about the indie thing. We already talked about Animal Farm, so we don't need to talk about it anymore. Although TechRaptor does seem to have slightly better screenshots of where it goes. I would also venture a guess, as a complete idiot who hasn't read Animal Farm, I would very much venture a guess that Animal Farm is probably a criticism of the current state of the society of the person who wrote it, which means certain subjects will overlap and still make sense, but some things will kind of not be timeless and not make so much sense. For instance, if there was a aspect or a theme in Animal Farm that there would be a race war, that was major concerns in the United States for a long time. I don't think too many people actually think that there's going to be an actual race war. It would probably be much more realistic to assume that there would be a class war before a race war. Or if there was, for instance, major criticism of the way that the USSR implemented their governance and communism. Well, the USSR is not around anymore for all practical, realistic reasons. So, is that really going to apply to anything? Even if there are other communist countries out there, that their ways of doing things are going to be different enough, I would say, that at first blush it doesn't seem like that would be still applicable. A lot of times people try to make the argument that some of these quote-unquote classics, which are classics only because people say they're classics, are timeless because they're talking about the nature of humans, and some of that seems to be true, but some of it also seems to be kind of not true, or a stretch at the very least. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. The side-scrolling action platformer Fallen Knight is coming to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC in Q1 of 2021. This looks like it might be an interesting game by the art style. It does kind of look like a fast-paced hack-and-slash platformer. Not sure if I would be able to tolerate a game like this for a super long time though, because it does kind of feel like there's a lot of room for error. Like, we're watching the trailer of someone playing very well, but it does kind of feel like that you could very well run into a lot of frustration. Let's do this.
Hey, let's play.
And then this.
Hey, let's play.
And this.
Hey, let's play.
And do I need to do anything more? See, next we have a game on Steam here called Captain Frogger. Kind of unsurprising that a frog game comes out as soon as Frog Fractions comes out to Steam. But by the looks of it, this doesn't look like it's actually anything other than an asset flip game. You have a gorilla here, and I don't know if he's fighting the frogs or throwing the frogs or skipping the frogs or what. $2.99, 13 achievements, English only. Looks like it's a low effort game. Let's see.
Spirit, everything decays.
It won't be long now.
Bear the suffering of to suffering, to pain.
2, 4. 2 damage left. That's all we need to do. Next we have a game on Steam called Obsolete, which looks like it is a black and white and gray platforming game. Let's see. Platformer with a calm atmosphere, it says, which I think in that argument probably means there's not a lot that happens.
Ow!
It doesn't look like it's probably much of a frustration platformer, which is I'll applaud it for that, but it doesn't look like anything really happens. It's $2.54, it's English and French. I'm unimpressed by it. I could do quite a lot of damage.
Not bad at all.
Or he can just concede. I guess that works also. Which means win streak.
I won!
Which means play again. We only probably have 2 more games in us. Next we have a game called Out of Oblivion, which looks like it's a zombie first-person shooter. But honestly, maybe my standards have gotten a bit lower. This actually looks visually polished enough that it might actually be a game. $1.99. It's pretty cheap. English and Russian. I'm gonna put it on the follow list and see what happens. I do seem to be either I'm having network connection troubles or Shadowverse is having network connection troubles. Which, who knows? Like, particularly in these summer months, the power seems to go out and mess with things quite a bit. So 50 rank matches get you 20 gold. That's not much. It really isn't a lot. But I am getting down to the point where theoretically I could just spend maybe an hour, particularly if I get really good, spend maybe an hour every day just playing ranked, getting 3 victories, getting the temporary gems, and working towards the monthly score reward. Although, in all fairness, I think we probably are at a point where if I was playing that way, it would still take too much time up of my day-to-day experience. Next we have a game called Boar, and I could have sworn we already looked at this game. But it looks a little bit... No, this is the game we looked at, I think. I wonder if they listed the game twice. Or if my anti-duplicate plugin just failed. Well, I wasn't interested in this game the first time I saw it. I'm not interested in it the second time. So... I have been noticing, yeah, that a lot of the tabs I had were simply labeled as error pages, so it seems like there probably was something that went weird with Steam or my browser. Here we have a game called Vagabond Inn, which looks like it is a Chinese take on Tiny Tower. Which is an interesting idea, certainly, but English is not supported. $2.99, Chinese only. That definitely is a thought, certainly, though. Like, why not have a different architectural style design for the Tiny Tower concept? That's what Fallout Shelter did, certainly, and it didn't suffer from stealing that generic idea. Gamatsu has an article. This week's Japanese game releases: Fight Crab, Cupid Parasite, and more. So it seems like they're almost listing just Steam games only, but apparently Fight Crab and Cupid Parasite did come out on the Switch also. Journey to a Savage Planet, PGA Tour 2021, Rock of Ages 3, and They Are Billions. What's interesting here is golf must be so uninteresting to the Japanese audience, according to Gamatsu, that they would not focus on that being a worldwide release in favor of talking about Cupid Parasite and Fight Crab, which Cupid Parasite looks like it might be a visual novel adult game. It's rated D, 0D, whereas Fight Crab is rated 0A, and I think 0A is for everybody, and D is just below adults, so it's like 17-year-olds. But you can definitely tell that even Gamatsu feels like not much is getting released these days.
The touch of death.
You have definitely some yellow journalism here from Game of Sutra talking about the Epic new twist in the Epic about. Epic asks courts, see, that's, if you wanted to make that sound more authoritative, you would say petition courts or demands courts. Any of those might be used to make Epic seem like they were in the right more compared to feeling like they're in the wrong. But Epic asks courts to block Apple's quote-unquote retaliation. I don't think you really need quotes here. I think it is a retaliation, and you're not going to get sued as Fortnite and the Unreal Engine face consequences. Again, consequences implying that they are heavily on Apple's side here. And so that is a great example of a headline that is opinionated and not written. It's more clickbaity and opinionated type and designed to be set someone's perspective and mindset from one direction. I don't think I win here. I don't know how that got so out of hand.
Help me, fairies. I'm gonna rest for a bit.
Yeah, I have no idea what trick he just did to bring that many characters onto the field this early into the game. And I should know that so I could try and pull off that trick myself. He's got 21, 26 damage. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Lost, which looks like a collectible card game. No, it's a dungeon crawler that uses cards. It's just not visually polished enough, particularly in the background. Like this, just kind of boring stuff. And here you have like a phone number or just a number instead of an ID or name. This is early access. English is not supported. Chinese only. $6.59. Yeah, that definitely did feel like a Chinese game. Let's go to the shop. It's not a lot to celebrate, but we still got some cards to open. So let's open the pack while we're here. Next we have this game called Chupachupa Vr, which seems to be a like adult game where you're licking music recorders and you're just getting caught by girls licking their music recorders, like real creeper stuff that like I just don't think there's actually a game here. I think this is probably a really dumb idea that it was taken way too far that they actually succeeded in developing a game. It's $9.89 and a bunch of language here. Honestly, what can you say there? It's just, don't be a creeper. If you ever want to end up with a girlfriend doing creepy things without their permission, is not anywhere close to the way to accomplish that. And particularly in the time of COVID, the idea of running around licking someone else's musical instrument that they have to put their mouth on to actually play is gross, to say the least. I guess over the course of the next week we'll use the rest of these tickets up, and I don't really know of anything else that can be done. Like, I'm just gonna kind of sit on the gold, and once we run out of challenge tickets to do open 6, we'll then have to use gold to do take 2s and open 6s. And I don't know particularly why I want to do take 2s, unless I get daily quests that tell me to do that, and I still would have to finish the solo daily quests at that point, and I'm not at that point. We can see here, as far as ranked modes go, I am at 21 victories with Forcecraft, where the next highest victories is actually Havencraft at 9 victories. I've still not gotten a single victory in ranked with Bloodcraft, and I've only gotten like 3 with several of the other characters. I've gotten 51 wins, which, as far as the rankings, I guess I didn't know we could see this. You can see there's a lot of people ahead of you, although in all fairness, this guy is almost certainly cheating, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these top 20 people are cheating in one way or the other. Some of these scores are much lower, much more reasonable. Like an open 6 win streak of 10 is not a lot, but that information also doesn't really tell you anything. Let's see, Flare, I very possibly have unlocked some new flares. So, is there anything here I would want? We can change it to in to win. Or we could change it to please help. Yeah, we'll change our flare to please help. And then emblems. I think I got one new emblem because I got one new card or something in the main story, but I don't even see it. Like, this might be the new emblem that I got. It's just the new way that Rowan looks. The emblems still really don't mean anything to me. I think I would still just prefer to stick with the Shadowverse logo. And we got a new character to play as.
This is the end of your miserable life.
I don't know how I got that, honestly. Like, it does seem like things just kind of pop up.
I present the dance of colors.
Oh, I actually bought those two, didn't I? No, never changed to them. Yeah, I did. I bought those two. Don't even remember that I wasted money on those two. Which that is certainly the danger of free-to-play games, is that you end up changing things and buying things and then forgetting that you've spent money on the game. And I haven't spent any real-world money on the game, but there's danger here. There's also a danger that I will do the solo mode, and in doing the daily quests and doing the solo modes, I actually do defeat that chapter with my new built decks, and there might be some new solo challenges to accomplish after that point that I will probably just do off screen, and then maybe make an addendum video where we just skip through the story after I've beaten all the story elements, but there could be a lot of story elements, frankly. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's 3 or 4 more elements, sub-chapters, or if there's entire episodes. Anyway, let's wrap up. We have TechRaptor here. Eastern Exorcist is a hugely promising action RPG. This is one of those advertisements in the form of a article from TechRaptor, which the screenshots look fairly dark, but there might be a game here, but it's kind of pointless to even care about a game until it happens. Big news happened over the weekend with LibRetro, in the fact that after their 1.9 point release on the 9th, over the weekend, hackers hacked into their GitHub and deleted and vandalized a bunch of the code. Says hacker vandalized our build bot, which is part of GitHub and GitHub organization. What you should know. And this happened on the 15th. Our GitHub LibRetro just hacked. They were trying to delete everything. And apparently LibRetro didn't have the best of backups. But so GitHub has said that they're not able to restore their repositories. You have to do it manually. GitHub won't do it for you. Apparently you can press the restore button, according to one person. According to RetroPie, there's also a way to restore it. The whole idea of GitHub is built around the idea of being able to restore older versions. So the idea that LibRetro as an organization doesn't know how GitHub works as well as they should is slightly disconcerting, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people are in that same position. Like, I've used GitHub like once, and if somebody told me I needed to do something on it, I wouldn't know how to do anything as far as restoring or doing any of that. I kind of do have some plans to use GitHub more in the future, but yeah, probably not a lot. Let's see. Tech Raptor has an article here. An FTC workshop details the massive scope of the loot box problems, and the FTC, quote, will continue to monitor the situation. So, any game developers thinking about adding a loot box in their games should at least look at the workshop, if not, just avoid having loot boxes in the first place. Also, if you're in the United States, apparently you get paid to work as a election poll worker. So that's an interesting potential job opportunity for people that are, a lot of people are probably looking for work. That being said, taking a job that lasts one day could very well knock you out of unemployment. So if you have been approved for unemployment, I would definitely not apply to that job. It doesn't fully knock you out, as to my understanding, but then you would have to go back and reapply on the same claim after that one day of unemployment. That is generally the idea of what a lot of temp agencies try to do, is they try to get people on unemployment, hire them for a few days, knowing full well that at most they're going to have them employed for 30 days as temporary workers, even though they may lie and say it's a permanent position, and then they're going to fire them, hoping that knocks them off the unemployment, because the more people that any company knocks off of unemployment, the better off all the companies that have to pay into the unemployment funds are, and the worse off individual employees are. Moving on, we have a article here. Illmatic Envelope Swamp confirmed for Switch. That is a weird named game, certainly. Let's see what the trailer looks like. Oh yeah, that looks like a weird looking game too. Yeah, it looks like it's probably a shoot 'em up game with a bunch of weirdness. It's like nearly seizure inducing flashes happening there. TechRaptor has an article here. Over 2,000 titles have been shipped via the ID at Xbox program. ID at Xbox. Which it enables qualified developers of all sizes to unleash their creativity by self-publishing digital games on Xbox One and Windows 10. Okay, so this is the self-publishing, like, Steam Direct equivalent. And in all fairness, the idea that only 2,000 games have been allowed via a direct publishing on Xbox goes to show that there is way more curation as far as that program than Steam, where there's almost certainly 2,000 games a year that are getting released on Steam. Steam Direct. TechRaptor has an article. Paper Mario the Origami King enjoys the franchise's best debut. Which, okay. Although I guess the question, is it the best Mario game? Third best? No. Third best selling game of July. Fastest selling title in the Paper Mario series, which would exclude Mario RPG, as that wasn't in the Paper Mario series, although many would probably argue that a lot of the games in the Mario RPG style should be considered the same universe. Right, and that brings me to the Humble Bundle. And do we have anything as far as a games bundle. No, the Bohemia Interactive Games Bundle is going to end in 17 hours, so I imagine that means on Wednesday we'll have a new game bundle come out. Then that brings me to my Twitter feed. I did have a concerning thought, certainly. I have a lot of Nintendo collection stuff that I plan on donating to a video game museum, probably the National Video Game Museum in Frisco, Texas. And in the current pandemic times, apparently Libretto was able to restore their repositories according to RetroPie project. There is this thought, certainly, though, that in this current pandemic times, had I donated what was over decades worth of collecting of video games and a lot of stuff there, a lot of stuff that at least has sentimental value, if not actual real world value, it would have been really, really annoying to see the video game museum that I donated my collection to go out of business and potentially sell off or trash like the entirety of my collection. Now, I am fully willing to believe that there might be a significant amount of stuff I donate that is at best second or third tier display quality, that it's just not in mint condition, so they'd stick it on a shelf somewhere where kids could touch and break, and I was fine with that. And I could even imagine that a lot of it either gets sorted through and thrown away, or just thrown away in general. But the idea of the entire effort being trashed would be a very sad thought. So far that has not happened, so that might fall closer to a paranoid thought. But yeah, it does certainly give me pause to think about, is now the time to donate? Although, on the other hand, now might have been the perfect time to donate, because they probably don't have that many people coming in to their museum, so they probably have workers that they could give work to as far as sorting new donations. But also, I still have yet to determine that the National Video Game Museum has enough funding and enough space to actually hold my collection. Like, I'm very possibly might double the amount of stuff, or double the amount of square footage that they need. Anyways, on that thought, that's going to be it for this recording. I'll have more missions that I'll have to do. These missions still are timed pretty terribly, and I need to get them timed at a better time. I need to basically not do today's daily missions. It'd be nice if I also got one more victory for 400 more temporary gems. But I basically need to not do these until like tomorrow around noon. That way it resets around noon every time. But I don't think that's likely to happen. That's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for